So, about 3 years ago, I got an email and I read it and it said, hey, I want you to come on tour in America. And I was like, oh, fuck. He emailed me 2 years ago and I never responded to him. And I had to look through my emails and go, oh, shit, I really like your work. And I got this download. I was like, I have to go to America for the whole month. Fuck. So I just went and did it. And did anybody see the film that I made about that? Yeah. It was good, wasn't it? I'm going to put it out on YouTube, I think, because it's been a couple of years now. But when I got there, you see, in my head, I was like, I'm going on tour to America. It's going to be a big Winnebago. It's going to be like, I'm going to get waited on. I'll be signing books. I'll be driven around in a limousine. I got there and there was this RV that looked like it was condemned from Breaking Bad. And the next 3 days, I was in a car with Tom Numbers and he was moaning the whole way. And I was moaning the whole way as well, going, what the fuck is it with these Americans? They're like, this is like being in the military. And then Tom had enough and he left and I was like, I'm the only British person on this tour. I'm gonna have to stand up for England. I'm gonna finish this fucking thing. And the taskmaster on that tour was a man called Lewis Herms, who is over here, who's currently standing for governor of California. Under the banner of We the People, which he's had tattooed to his arm in a position you have to go like that to see. I won't tell you where his other tattoo is. And when we were on tour in America, they said we had a bromance. I'm not sure Aracelli likes the idea of that because it's a friendship. And it was a friendship that I couldn't really put into words. The same with all the people here. Because it's like for example, Ferg, I've never met Ferg until last night, but it was like seeing an old friend. Like a lot of you. I know a lot of you in this room that I feel deep friendship with. Janine, Abby, I mean, Scott, it's unbelievable. And that friendship is so deep that he decided to come here for a week in Boyle on a retreat with a fascist. Go figure. So it is my great honor to introduce Lewis Herms.
All right, so my OCD's kicking in already. We'll line all this stuff up over here real nice and straight the way it should be. Y'all cold? Yeah. Stand up. Let's do it. All right, so you're going to find out right now why they call me the anti-politician. You'll never see a politician do this. I need to get warm. Woo! Yes. All right. All right. Did that help at all? All right. Somebody take a picture real quick. I got a standing ovation. So, so fair enough. You can stand if you feel like it, whatever works for you, or sit down. So here's what's interesting. So I come across the pond, right, to learn proper English. All right, and heading over to Ireland, I hear words like lingus. Okay, now think about where I come from. I hear a word like bangers, fag, that's proper English? Because it means something completely different across the pond. All three of those have different connotations completely. I'm like, all right. And then yesterday I heard the word faggot, and I'm like, oh, so that's a small cigarette, right? That's a mini-sized cigarette, right? And then I see these clones outside calling people that are for free speech fascists. I gotta get the fuck out of here. This is English? So a fascist, by the way, in the dictionary, even in the English dictionary, is a dictatorial person. Think about that for a second. How detached are the people fighting against the people fighting for them? Isn't that amazing? And warriors keep up the good work, right? We need to keep fighting for those that can't fight for themselves. They don't have the ability. And it's very clear, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about, right? When you call a guy fascist, it's a fascist event, Mark, so it's not just you, brother. We're all fascists. So I walked by, and I even told my friend Tom, I said, I'm not going to say anything to him. Well, I said something to him. So I walked up, and I shook my head, and I go, do you even have a clue? And then I walked away, and then I go, fuck it. And I walked back, and I go, do you know the definition of fascist? Both of them turned away from me immediately, which, by the way, that surprised me. I thought they would start to say something, da-da-da-da-da. And they go, I'm just asking, do you know the definition of fascist? Right? Do you understand what freedom of speech is? You're exercising it right now, right? And guess who's not trying to shut you down? These fascists, right? And then now, in their defense, they were probably speaking Gaelic, right? And I just didn't understand. So, but the reality is, it's sad, right? But we are in the greatest times in history of mankind. This is Bible 2.0 to me. This is biblical as biblical can be. And no matter how much pain you've gone through, and all of you are warriors, so we all have stories, how we've lost our children and our parents, and we've died. Many of us have died several times and been attacked and in jail. And I mean, the stories are here are just incredible. I've talked to many of you, but the reality is, no matter how painful it is, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And my little leprechaun over here and I, we actually are on the exact same page on one thing. We've talked about this 2 years after he ignored my first email. And it was about, and very important, it was about the fact that the best thing that's happened to this planet is COVID-19. You know? And people say, Lewis, you always try to turn things into positive. I go, everything is positive. You know, we create our outlook. Nobody has to create their outlook on us, right? So sometimes I step back and I go, okay, where did we go wrong? And people say, well, we didn't go wrong. It's the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Pacers, and they go through all the 13.5 families and whatever it is. They went wrong. No, they did exactly what they planned. I'll tell you where we get wrong. And this is, I'm going to talk to all you warriors, because there's some in here that have said this before. They have talked about these so-called controllers, which I call parasites. I finally heard somebody today call them parasites for the first time. I'm like, hey, now we're talking, right? I was like, that was beautiful. So these parasites, has anybody watched my film Cages about human trafficking? So if you remember, I wrote that film from the perspective, not of us, but from the evildoers. Because you must know your enemy to defeat your enemy. And I'm going to be frank with you. One of the most frustrating things for me is when I hear us warriors call our enemy stupid or dumb. No, they are not. They haven't been over 1,000 years of rule if they were dumb. They're highly intelligent. They're not creative, and they must use us to manifest for them, which, by the way, is intelligent that they're using us, but they're not dumb. Don't underestimate your enemy. Now, why are we winning right now? Well, God has a big part in it, wouldn't you say? I would. And I believe the reason why we're kicking their ass, and I think we're going to see a lot of more shit before it gets better. That's just reality. Because what happens when a lioness is back into their corner, right? They're going to do everything they can. And I believe the baddies right now, their goal, they know they've lost. Would you agree with that? They're not going to bring it back. They know that. But because of evil is what evil is, they want to cause us as much pain as they possibly can in the meantime. So we have to be prepared for that, right? I believe in my heart the reason why we got them is not because they're stupid, because they're arrogant. They are highly arrogant. So they thought they were undefeatable. And when you think, I played a lot of sports. When you think you can't be defeated is the day you get defeated. Because you stop preparing. They're arrogant. They thought they had it all lined up, right? But what they didn't count on, sorry guys, but what they didn't count on is they didn't count on the women raising up and being the army that took us over the top. Because they spent so much time on feeding the boys soy, right? Emasculating us and doing everything they can. So they thought they won. And then the mama bear said, fuck that. So big thank you to the mama bears, right? For sure. But a huge thank you to the very few men that stood up in the face of this adversity. And I've said this publicly many times. Women, would you prefer a soy boy or a lumberjack? Right? Would you prefer a guy to walk through the door before you or open the door for you? Right. Would you like a man to throw you over the threshold or carry you over the threshold? So men can act like men. It's okay, isn't it? It's okay. Now, we've been convinced, many of us, that it's not okay. So I would say, women, when you see a man acting like a man, could you do me a big favor? Can you make a big deal of it? Can you really make a big deal of it? So when they open that door, you say, thank you so much. When they step up and fix something in the house, after asking him 7 times, on that 8th time, you go, thank you, darling. Thank you, honey. You did a great job. I really appreciate you. But folks, the reason why we have to have a lot of fun is because I really believe there's some frequencies that are very important. I believe, personally, frequency that is extraordinarily important is the frequency we get from joy and laughter. Because what the parasites want to do is they need to take away our joy and laughter. So if anybody's ever watched my show before, when I used to do the news and other things, I would intentionally, I am cold, I'm going to have to take a warm drink. I wish I drank for real, because brandy would be really good right now, wouldn't it? Whiskey. What's the one that warms your body up? Yeah, they're all speaking Gaelic. What'd you say again? So, interesting enough, what the hell was I talking about? Yeah, before whiskey. Yeah, frequencies, yes, joy and laughter. Thank you very much. Somebody has to keep me on track, because my wife doesn't have her hand in my back currently. So I love you, honey. My handler, I have to give credit to my handler all the time. Jeez, so annoying. So what's interesting is with joy and laughter is a frequency they can't handle. So I would intentionally on our shows, I would read these articles, and I like to read between the lines, because there's a message they want you to hear, but you don't think you're reading it. It's little words, phrases, adverbs that they throw in to twist everything. So I would mock these articles when we're reading it. And it became a lot of fun, because what happens is I suddenly knew, I said, you know what? I am absolutely disrupting the demons and their frequencies, right? Because if they're doing something intentionally to bring you down and you're like, right? They can't handle it. They can't handle it. So we have to have fun in adversity. And I learned this from a friend a while ago. And this may seem very, very coarse, but you're going to understand it. And I'm going to reference it to somebody. So he was just gotten to be a firefighter in LA County. Geez, this is like 35 years ago. Hell, I'm getting old. So that's about 35 years ago. And he went on his first run. They called him a boot. So it was in Canaan Road in near Malibu. Car ran off the road. The guy, unfortunately, was dead. He went down the hill, because there was a lot of crashes down the hill. So the experts went down first. After it, they send the boot down. They're like, okay, boot, you go down, because you have to investigate, right? So you understand what we're dealing with. On the way back up, they said, don't worry about it, because he's kind of skirting down there. He got there like it's a no-brainer. So he goes down there, but he looks in the car, and the guy's brains were all over the dashboard. Now, that's gallows humor. And it seems very tough to intake. But I can tell you, I've had conversations with many firefighters, police, Navy SEALs, people in wartime. That's a coping mechanism for them. And it sounds bad, but they really need it, because it helps them thrive. So sometimes it's black humor, right? So sometimes you have to find the humor in everything, even if it seems like it's bad. Now, would they ever say that in front of the family? Absolutely not. They're very empathetic in front of the family, and so on and so forth. But amongst themselves, they have to cope with this, or they're going to absorb the tragedy constantly, and then they can never save a life after that, right? So in all this shite, as you would call it here, I'm gonna have a whole new language coming home. So in all this shite, as you would say, I just thought shite. I think I had to stay up here and say shite for 5 more minutes. Oh, that's right, an hour and 5 more minutes. Sorry about that, Mark. But with everything going on here, right, you have to find the humor in frequencies. That's a very high frequency that I believe in. Love is an extraordinarily high frequency, right? And I'm a fighter, and if I was to see somebody molest a child, that most likely would be the last day that person was on earth, right? At the same time, I've learned from my friend Michael Jacob, it's also great to send love towards people, because they self-destruct. So love is a very high frequency. In my opinion, it's not the highest frequency. I believe the highest frequency by far is authenticity. I believe it's very hard to achieve true love and true joy without being authentic, right? Do you think we would be here today if everybody you spoke with was authentic? No, because you would know where they're coming from. For that reason, they've called me the anti-politician. I've decided not to have a campaign manager because here's what a campaign manager does. They poll, they instruct you on how you should say certain words and phrases and so on and so forth. And I said, what the hell would I want to do that for? Right? That's fakery. Fakery. And virtually every politician who's ever been elected, they're more concerned about getting elected than their message being accepted by the people. Well, if they were fighting for we the people and they're being authentic, would that ever be an issue? Never would be an issue. So what drew me into this race was very interesting. I was, they started to talk about it a little bit, and finally I looked through the list, and I knew you had the Democrats, right, already. Did I say that? I meant Democrats. I'm so sorry. And I knew we had independents and you had the Republicans. Now, generally people think go for Republicans, right? I'm going to explain something that may shock a lot of people today. It's going to be very interesting. So I started reading the Republican list, and at the time I think there was about 7 or 8 of them on there. And I noticed not what they were talking about, what they weren't talking about. Not one of those candidates were talking about child trafficking. Not one. Not one was talking about election fraud. And none of them had the balls to go against Big Pharma or the parasitical control mechanism. And they're pussies, yeah. I can never say that out loud. Pussy, pussy, pussy. So what's interesting, my wife's gonna fucking kill me. She's counting my F words right now, too. But you know what's funny? I'm gonna throw her under the bus, all right? This is my wife, right? She'll have something in her hand, like this, all right? She goes, oh, fuck. Oh, shit, I cussed. Fuck! Literally, that's what she does. It's hilarious. Potty mouth. So when I'm looking at that list of Republicans, right, I was like, we're screwed. We are screwed in California. I said, because in my opinion and from some knowledge I've gained and things that I know, we really are looking like we may not fix the elections, but repair the elections, right? The process, which would be great. I'm trying to get same-day voting. I'm the only one talking about a serial number on the ballots, but now it's getting traction, which is really good, right? Because that prevents duplication of ballots. Same-day counting, obviously, paper ballots. But that looks like that may happen, and I'll know by the end of October. By the way, I'm going to declare now, if we have that, we the people won. Right? So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, man, what are we going to do? What's my job now, right? Because I certainly wasn't going to run for political office. I can't stand politicians. Just turns my stomach like you cannot believe. So I went to sleep, and I dreamed, and of course the dream was, oh, here's the answer. You're going to run for governor. No, I'm not. Well, this is God's voice talking to you. Yeah, not this time, bud. He's like, you're running for governor. I go, oh, gosh. So I'm like, all right, what does that look like? And immediately, and this is very interesting, it came, you're the disruptor. Like, okay, I'm pretty good at that. Yeah, that's a skill set that I've had for years. I mean, my platform is Screw Big Gov, so I think that may tell you about disruption. So I'm good at that. And then, And we'll see from there, right, where it goes from there. So, but there was a huge obstacle, and some of you heard this story last night, right? That was my wife. Because she said, what was that, sweetheart? Say it. It was a hard no. She goes, it's a hard no. Which, by the way, if you know her, that's worse than a hell no. She's like, it's a hard no. So anyways, long story short, it was all about asking the kids. And because she knew the kids were going to say absolutely no. So it was a hard no. And then and she knew me that I'm going to still investigate it, because I love her, but, that was God. So I know you're up there, but I got to pay attention to that guy too. It's like, oh no. So I just started to really study it and so on and so forth. And I found that the primary, which is the beginning of the elections, like the first phase, that was on June 2nd. And I was like, wow, hair stood up on my arms because that happens to be my birthday. So I told my wife, and she's like, ugh, that's a sign. But that wasn't a yes, right? She's like, still no, right? And then I do more research and more signs were popping up, and she goes, okay. She knew she had me. She's like, let's ask the kids about this, right? So we have 7 children, right? 3 of them pretty much have abandoned us because of our so-called political beliefs, but we're not political at all. We're just we the people beliefs, right? But they were indoctrinated through the education system, so on and so forth. But so the other 4 that we're really close to, we decided to ask. Anyways, I'm going to cut that part short, but all 4 of them gave her the opposite answer that she expected. So at the end, she's like, okay, I guess we're going to do this, right? And it's really scary for us because I've been poisoned twice on tour, threatened several times, and, a lot of things that have gone on through this. The FBI has already been at our house, in our garage, disrupting her business, my backyard, talking to us together. I mean, me without her. So they've come after us every which way they can. I can't even count how many counts. I think we're on a 7th or 8th TikTok account now. We lose everything. Even under Elon Musk, we had an 80,000 following account on X, and I said Khazarian Mafia. You're all Khazarian Mafia in here, right? Okay, good. So I said the phrase Khazarian Mafia, and boom, that account was gone. Okay. I said, I'm going to have to put that on True Social. So I put on True Social. I posted 42 times in True Social, did not put it up 42 times. That was True Social. So clearly, at that time, they didn't want Khazarian Mafia to begin the conversation. So anyway, we understood. So she was very concerned and is concerned, about the family, so on and so forth, although we do have protections. The most important protection we have is we have divine protection. And, and it is very powerful. It is very powerful. It gives you a lot of confidence for sure. So when I'm looking at this, most people would say, okay, so he's going to choose to be a Republican. And let me just tell you, if you understand the makeup of California, the GOP in California, which is the Republicans, right, it's extraordinarily corrupt. But I hope everybody can have a paradigm shift for a second here. The Democrat and Republican parties are created as a black and white illusion so they can control you. Because what happens is when you have division, when you divide, they do what? They conquer. So what happens is we create a lazy electorate. Well, I'm just going to vote all D. Oh, I'm just going to vote all R. They had no idea about the candidate. They have no idea about the policies. They have no idea about the bills, the laws that they're voting for, because it said R next to the name or D next to the name. Well, let me explain just real quick for those of you that may not understand how this works in the States. What happens is there's always a primary before the general election. The primary is like a vetting out process, and then they'll put 2 people into the general election after the primaries. Sometimes they'll throw an independent in there after and things like that. It's weird. But anyway, so the primary is very, very important to the process. Does anybody know who Dr. Doug Frank is? Okay, so Dr. Doug Frank's a friend of mine. He's the one that gave all the statistics to Mike Lindell when Mike Lindell was putting out all the numbers of election fraud. Now, why that's important is because I said to Doug, it hit me all of a sudden. And I walked up to Doug, and we were, I think, in an event in Michigan. And I just walked up and go, Doug, barely knew me at the time. He's like, yeah, Lewis, what's up? I said, we're in a big freaking psyop. He goes, what do you mean? I go, we're all convinced to spend all our time focusing on the general election when you have the parasites that focus on getting a Democrat in there and a rhino Republican in there. So as soon as they're through the primaries, they're partying while we're fighting it out in a fake election in the general election. He paused. He said, you're 100% right. Now, why that's important is you'll get a great turnout. Well, if Biden's running, you'll get 125% of people to turn out, right? So that's different. But generally, the turnout in an election for a general could be up to 70, 80%. You're running 25 to 30% in a primary, which is the most important part of the election. So I said, I see what's going on here. So when I had a chance to run, I talked about the highest frequency we run on, and that's authenticity. Well, if I ran as a Republican, I wouldn't be authentic because I know the system is corrupt. So I'm running as an independent conservative. Now, so the first thing out of people's mouths is you're going to split the vote, you don't have a chance, it's never been done before. Challenge accepted. Cool. And this is literal, when I was a child, because I was very small, right? I grew up later. I played every sport you can possibly imagine, right? And we would do pickup games all the time. I was a latchkey kid, so anytime I can get outside and do a pickup game, pick up American football, baseball, whatever it was, I was always picked last. There's 20 kids, I was always picked last. And I guarantee you, and this is not arrogance, the next time we played with the same kids, I was always picked first. I love diversity. I love the challenge, right? So when I'm told I can't have a chance, I'm just doubled down on how hard I'm going to work. But I'm not working for anybody except we the people. So it may be a lot of work, but it's really not that hard because it's just authentic, right, in the face of adversity. So people say, okay, how do you do this? And I go, well, we have it all gamed out, and there is a path to victory, but I'm going to give you guys just a summary here, and you'll know how this makes a lot of sense as an independent. And there's so many. In fact, I think, is Winnie here? So I believe it was you that came up to me after 2 minutes of saying this, and you're like, I thought you couldn't have a chance, and now I get it, right? So why this is important, and listen to this, and this is what's exciting. And I'll end with this. I was going to go for Q&A, but I'm sure Janine's freezing over here, so we got to get her up here. So think about this for a second. So in California, you have a certain amount of percentage of Democrats, okay? And then you have the independents and Republicans. We're almost the same percentage each. Right? That's intentional, by the way. That's how they split all the votes and control everything. But why this matters, I do my job, I'm going to get the bulk of independents. I guarantee it. Right? That's not going to be a challenge. In fact, I'm very proud to say a lot of RFK Jr.'s team is already working with us. So that's a big deal, right? And they've already labeled our team Super Maha because we're here looking for different modalities that can bring back to California and bring it to a whole nother level than even he's doing it over right now. And he has, in his defense, he has more restrictions federally because they've signed contracts and he has to let some of these contracts wane out or they're in a big hole. Just so you know, so if anybody's upset that RFK Jr. may not be moving quick enough, a lot of it has to do with contracts that were signed that they would really, literally they could lose $1 trillion. So they have to 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever it is. Just so you know, there's a lot of that going on. California, it's a little different, which is good. So anyways, so I really feel like we're going to get a lot of the independents because the independents really want authenticity and truth, and they want somebody that's going boom, 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 right? Now, here's the irony. Now there's 11 or 12 Republicans running. I'm still more conservative in every single one. As an independent. Think about that, right? And none of them are still talking about child trafficking, election fraud, big pharma, parasite controllers. They don't have the courage. They don't. And I'm not saying I don't have courage. I'm just stupid, right? But it's okay. Stupid can win. So my wife says, "Don't call yourself stupid." See? So interesting. So listen. So figure this out. We'll probably capture the independent vote. I know we're going to capture a lot of the conservative vote of Republicans because they're very disenfranchised right now. And it's going to be an education process so they just understand how they've been taken advantage with the rhinos. How's the rhinos working out for you? Oh, by the way, rhinos for you folks is Republican in name only. That's what that means. Right, they're traitors. Like I always say, would you rather have the snake at your doorstep or in your bed? The Democrats are at your doorstep. They're telling you, I'm a snake. I'm going to bite you. The rhinos are in your bed sheet saying, I love you. When you sleep, they bite you in the ass, right? So I actually think the rhino Republicans are a lot more dangerous than the Democrats because you don't know what they're thinking, right? And that's the Judas, right? So it's very important. So we're going to win over a whole bunch of Republicans. And we're going to take the independents. Now, here's what's interesting. Think about this with the Democrats. And I know we demonize the Democrats. When I say that, I'm not talking about the voters as much as I'm talking about the controllers themselves and the politicians. Because when I have this conversation with Democrats, listen to how this goes. Would you like to end child trafficking? Yeah. By the way, which is the number one most profitable economy in California. Over tech. I've already done the numbers. Even the UN would corroborate that because UN's based on the numbers, the UN says, yeah, we're probably only capturing about 5% of the numbers. So I love math. I ran the math. It's at least over 10 billion in profit more than big tech. That's child trafficking. So if I say, do you want children to be raped? No. Great. So can we end child trafficking? Hell yeah. Let's focus on that. Great. Would you like lower energy costs by 70 to 80% and on the way to 0 point energy, which we will be on the way to? Well, that makes sense. Let's do that, right? How about no taxes? By the way, we have a plan that we can prove it will work. How about no taxes? How about we take all government spending in California and post it online live so we the people can audit it anytime they want? So all of these principles, and I go one after another, and we have 17 online and 17 solutions, right? Unilaterally, they agree with most of them. We're about 85% connected from the Democrats to the Republicans or from the liberals to the conservatives. You know why we don't know it? Because it's not the liberals that are the issue. It's the Marxist left that will talk for the liberals, right? And it is the controllers, the parasite controllers that try to keep that division because that division equals conquering. So we can capture a whole bunch of Democrats because they're already disenfranchised. So we've done the polling. We know they hate Gavin Newsom. They cannot stand that guy. They're not even, I don't even think they'll come out. The ones that are just so disenfranchised, they won't even come out to vote. We only need 30% to get through the primary. This is a big deal. This is a real big deal in this time, and this is not a big deal for Lewis. I'm literally a conduit. In fact, somebody on my team said, Lewis, you're not a governor because you hate governing. In fact, screw big gov, as Carol will point out to you, it's screw being governed. Right? Do you need to be governed? Are you children? No, we're free-thinking adults, right? That's why you're here today. So, this is a we the people election. And it's not about me. And a friend of mine, Michelle, she says, so you're guardian of California. I go, yes, I'll do everything I can to protect California and protect we the people and bring that message forward so we can live a prosperous life. In fact, our slogan is Cali, California as liberty intended. Right? So, do you ever hear of somebody named Roger Bannister? First guy to win the 4-minute mile. I'm run the 4-minute mile. So many people across the board said, literally, scientists, doctors, it is humanly impossible for a human to run a 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister broke that, and he ran a 4-minute mile. Within months and years after that, it's dozens ran it. Now, why did the other ones were able to run it after he ran it, but not before? The most important thing we have is belief. Yep, belief system and manifestation. So they manifested it. Why? Because they believed it could be done. Imagine when we, the people, take California, the most corrupt, the big prize, as they say, right? The rest of the world will follow. Right? That is why the micro will fix the macro. California, which I believe is actually the real Israel, but that's a whole nother story in the future, right? And that'll get me in trouble with politicians, and that's good. I like being in trouble with them. But the reality is California is a big deal because that's their prize. Not my prize, not your prize. It's the baddies' prize. So when you take away their biggest prize from the parasites, what happens? It's a domino effect after that. It's Roger Bannister 2.0. And then everybody else is going to say, it can be done, it can be done, it can be done. Even if I didn't win, if we can get a high percentage, suddenly all the corruption, people are standing up all over the place and go, we can do it. So if that is all we accomplish, it's a big deal. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis. Lewis Hams. Lewis Hams. Is this working? Lewis Hams.